Good afternoon, everyone. This is an update on the tropics for September 24th, 2022 for specifically Ian. That is now a tropical storm. Now, this was expected to become Hermine, but that was actually taken by the tropical depression 10 that came off of Africa. So this will be Hurricane Ian that will be impacting Florida, Cuba, the Cayman Islands, and soon to be Jamaica. So let's get right into it. Here's the satellite imagery. We have 4 active tropical storms, and as you can see, Hurricane Fiona did make landfall on Nova Scotia last night, leaving over half of people without power in Nova Scotia. We have Tropical Storm Gaston, of course, and we have Tropical Storm Hermine that is currently west of Africa. So we're mainly going to be talking about Tropical Storm Ian, soon to be Hurricane Ian, that will be making impacts on the Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Cuba, and Florida very soon. Here's the National Hurricane Center. Of course, there's those 4 storms, and we also do have a disturbance over there that does have a 30% chance of development. So we can go ahead and look at our forecast cone for Tropical Storm Ian, and as you can see, it will be staying as a tropical storm here until about 8 a.m. Sunday. Now, we do have a hurricane warning out right now for the main island of the Cayman Islands. That is right there. We do have a hurricane warnings out right now. This can become a category 2 before reaching Cuba, so Cayman Islands definitely needs to really watch out. Make sure you are prepared ahead of the storm. Jamaica currently in all tropical storm warnings, tropical storm watches there. And as you can see, by 8 a.m. Tuesday, we could have a major hurricane impacting the western portion of Cuba. This will be going, this might even go in between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. It depends on how west it goes, but as you can see, it is a much more western track than yesterday. By 8 a.m. Wednesday, still major hurricane as it enters the Gulf, and as you can see, it will be making impact on Florida as a major hurricane. Now, what's interesting is if this goes further north, we have a whole bunch of wind shear that's going to be barreling down, which may weaken it before making landfall. However, if it makes a much more southern track, kind of like that, that will leave it making landfall as a major hurricane. But again, we have a strong pocket of wind shear that right before landfall, it's going to be diving down south, and also a cold front that might affect it if the path does lead into it. We have yet to get the storm surge totals. We will get those probably about 2 days before that makes landfall. But again, that's going to be 8 a.m. Thursday when that is expected to make landfall and actually make landfall as a category 2 hurricane. Again, lots of things coming into factor which could possibly weaken it again before landfall, but we're still going to see major impacts. So far for the next 3 days, we do have rainfall potential for the next 3 days. As you can see, so far we're seeing about 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. Again, this is not all the rainfall we're going to see from tropical Hurricane Ian. This is just for the next 3 days as it makes its northern movement. As you can see, we are going to see some decent amount of rainfall, around 4 to 6 inches of rainfall in that yellow. We do have in that dark green around 2 to 4 inches of rainfall, and around 1 to 2 inches of rainfall in that lime green color for the next 3 days. We do have a small flash flooding potential in effect for also the next 2 days. As you can see, that's including Miami, a marginal risk for some of that flash flooding. Tropical storm force wind speed probabilities have really increased here. We are now near a 90% chance of those tropical storm force winds here for the western portion of Cuba in that purple color. As you can see, Florida is really going up here on the chances, where we are seeing over a 70% chance you will see some of those tropical storm force winds in that reddish colors. As you can see, some of the Florida coastline, Tampa Bay, and Fort Myers is in that. And again, this could make even a more northern movement, kind of like Hurricane Charlie. This is kind of the path that Hurricane Charlie did make. Not saying it's going to be like Charlie, but it is definitely a very, very similar track here of what this is taking us. So again, Cuba is there to weaken it just a little bit as it goes through. But again, if it does make even a more western track, it has that wind shear just above here that may weaken it if it does decide to make landfall on the Florida Panhandle. Hurricane wind speed probabilities did kind of increase a little bit overnight, just not really much. As you can see, 30 to 40% chance for portions of western Cuba, and really not much updated chances for Florida just yet. Again, we're still around 4 to 5 days out until all this makes landfall. Here we are looking at the European ensemble spaghetti models from weathernerds.org, and as you can see, you can look at this on yourself if you go to the website. And as you can see, this does go through the Cabo Verde Islands right there, makes it a very close approach, goes through Cuba, of course, and that's where it could have a small weakening of the center. As you can see, it goes right towards Tampa Bay according to the European model. Again, just one model, but the European has been trending that this does, as you can see, make a direct impact on Tampa Bay. So we're going to have to watch that closely. Now, the GFS ensemble, as you can see, makes a much more northern track, and this would weaken it a lot due to that wind shear that peaks right before it makes landfall here. As you can see, GEFS is still that much more northern track here, as you can hits the Florida Panhandle. I'm not sure what hour that is, but around 200 hours out from now, that does impact the Florida Panhandle. So the tracks are again gonna change, and this may go more north, this may go more east. It really depends on these models and what they tell us where it's gonna go. We're still not very sure on the direct path. Here we look at the GFS model. As you can see, by the time it makes its way west of Cuba, this does make it to a major hurricane already by Tuesday, which is very concerning. It gets down to 927 millibars. That is, again, absolutely crazy. And again, we have that wind shear off to the north. The GFS is definitely noticing that as a much more northern track than anticipated. But as you can see, models do change. The GFS originally had it kind of like the Euro going into Florida. Now it has us just going straight north into the Panhandle. That would weaken it before landfall. But again, bad news for some of these people here in the Panhandle of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi. Some of these states right now just need to get prepared in case this does make that more northern track, because we have some of these major models already making that change to the track and path. Now, I personally don't think it's going to make this track, but again, anything can happen. So pretty much the entire state of Florida, especially on the Gulf Coast, needs to watch this very closely and make sure they are prepared for any emergency precautions. Here's a European model, 00Z model from September 24th. And as you can see, this does make a direct impact there on Tampa Bay and Fort Myers. This goes right in between. The Euro model has that. It actually has it not making it to a major hurricane, around a Category 1 high end to even a Category 2 hurricane that does impact Florida. Again, the European model does show that this will not be a major hurricane just due to Cuba keeping it down there due to that land impact, of course. But again, we're still very unsure if this is going to make a direct impact on portions of the Tampa Bay or even head north. We're going to keep you updated as much as possible on the possible track and path. But right now, the National Hurricane Center is going with the European model and all the other models that do lead this up towards this area. But again, they did shift out a little more north, a little more west as well. So their cone is kind of, again, kind of like this. It really goes kind of that direction there, or that was a little unrealistic. It really goes kind of like this. Their cone is impossible track is kind of like that, but again, the cone extends all the way out here. So this could also go in this direction. It could go in this direction. Really, their expected path is not exactly where it's going to go. They should anticipate it to really be anywhere in this cone. It could be way over here. It could also be way over here. So that's just the potential track that they do predict, but it's not the exact track it's going to take. We're not time travelers here. So make sure Florida is prepared for this. Make sure Western Cuba is prepared. Cayman Islands, you have a hurricane warning out right now. So I hope you guys are prepared for Hurricane Ian coming your way. Again, listen to your local officials for any evacuation orders for Florida. They will tell you whether or not you not have to evacuate if you for that safety, of course. And again, just make sure you are prepared. You still have a lot of days to prepare here, so we are giving you that head start. If you did enjoy and you want more of these constant updates on her tropical storm Ian, Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to turn on post notifications so you don't miss a single daily upload on the tropics. Also, share this video with any friends or family that may live in Florida, Cuba, Cayman Islands, and Jamaica. We will keep you updated as much as possible. Like the video and stuff like that. But as always, I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe.